My name is Dr. Mustafa, Dr. Mustafa Mohammed from Pharmacy Scholars Initiative, PSI. And on behalf of PSI, it is my absolute honor to welcome you to this very historic occasion, which is the 7th anniversary celebration of PSI. So today we celebrate not only the incredible journey of PSI for the past 7 years, but we are going to share with our audience the collective achievements, the contributions, and of course, drive inspiration from great leaders, mentors who are available with us today. So we look forward to a very fruitful conversation, and I believe we're gonna have a number of takeaways highlighting opportunities in pharmacy and of course public health. So we have some few announcements. The meeting is going to be recorded, and the recording, other lecture materials will be shared to all your emails, respective emails. We also gonna generate certificates to be provided to all attendees. At the end of this webinar, we're gonna share some feedback forms. So we're gonna extract your emails from there and distribute all the necessary materials across. Next slide. Next slide, Dr. Jato. Okay, so we have a solid agenda lineup featuring distinguished speakers who are with us here to share their experiences, which will enable us explore opportunities across pharmacy as we transit into our respective career and professional journeys. So we're going to start with an opening remarks by our president, Dr. Ibrahim Jatta, which is going to take us about 10 minutes. And then we'll have a welcoming remark by the chairman of the occasion in person of Prof. Ahmed Tijani Mura, OON. This will also last for about 10 minutes. And then the main events of the day, we have 3 speakers who are going to take 15 minutes each to take us through these very, very interesting topics. First, we'll start with Dr. Megan Smith. Dr. Megan Smith will be talking about exploring new frontiers, an unconventional journey into a public health career. Dr. Megan, you are most welcome.
Thank
Then
you.
we have our second speaker, who in person of Yusuf Idris, MPH, and Mr. Yusuf is going to take us through career opportunities for pharmacists in the United Nations system. Most welcome. Then we have
Thank you.
Last but not the least, Dr. Sheraz Ali. Dr. Sheraz Ali is a clinical associate, or maybe I think the topic is clinical associate or a hands-on experience on career pathway. So Dr. Sheraz, if you are with us, you are most welcome.
No,
So at the end of this, okay, so at the end of the discussion, we'll have a Q&A session which will last about 15 minutes. During the course of the presentation, I believe as we normally do, we can allow the speakers to talk on their presentation first, but if we have any question, we can still put it in the chat box. We will have personnel that will be monitoring the chat box, unless if the presenter wish to open it up for the audience, so it's still flexible. And then lastly, we are going to have closing remarks and presentation of certificates by one of us, the PSI Deputy President in person of Dr. Abubakar Ibrahim Jatta. So next slide.
Abubakar Shaban.
So to, yeah, so next slide, Dr. Jato. Okay, okay. So to kickstart the celebration today, may I have the pleasure to invite our PSI president, who is not only resourceful and instrumental in ensuring that this event is a success, Dr. Ibrahim Jato. Dr. Ibrahim
Yes,
Jato
I'm
is a
here.
great leader. He's an inspiration to all of us. He has shaped greatly PSI to what it is today. We will continue to appreciate his efforts and we look forward to see more and more of his beneficial contribution to us as a platform and to the community. So Dr. Ibrahim Jato, if you are with us, I believe if you are ready, you can proceed. Thank
Okay.
you.
Um, can you all hear me? Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we
good
can
day,
hear you, sir.
everyone, depending on from where you are joining us on this very interesting webinar to celebrate our 7 years in existence. As rightly said, the forum current name is Pharmacy Scholars Initiative. So, as you all know, every forum or association or organization is standing on a particular foundation. At PSI, our foundation has always been mentoring, mentoring. Because in school, we all been bombarded with so many lectures, training, practicals, but the mentoring aspect is what is not given much uh, time or focus. So that's what we realized, and we said, okay, in our own end, let's see what we can do in terms of mentoring our upcoming scholars to mentor them on research and career development. So, like I rightly said, mentoring is a crucial component of success in all aspects of lives. In our own case, is research. And at PSI, we recognize the value of mentoring as a key element of our vision toward making a difference in the professional development of pharmacists. So that was the initial one, but we now open it to even people who are from other backgrounds. From the initial step to where we are today, that is 7 years journey, mentoring has been the driver for the creation and the growth of PSI. And then who we are. So at PSI, this forum is not for profit organization and it's for research mentoring forum. And then it started in December 2017. I can remember specifically, I think on the 1st of December 2017. And then currently we are registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission of Nigeria. So we are a registered organization. And then, so what we do mentoring upcoming scholars on research and career development through a lot of activities. Number one, which is the major one, is through collaborative research, where we identify research gaps, designing, conducting, and publication of the findings. We also did conference presentation where we teach our members how to be confident in presenting to the scientific community, whether face-to-face or even virtual presentation. We also do some hands-on training on some research skills. I think this year we did one on using EndNote for referencing. We also did another one on choosing biostatistical methods. And previous years, we did a lot of them. We also did webinars, or we are conducting webinars. Initially, it was weekly, but as you know, busy. So we make it into bi-weekly so that not make it very boring. And then we now used to have like a quarterly webinar where we do it after every 4 months. So in this case, we normally invite some external experts from broad background in Nigeria and outside Nigeria to share their knowledge with us on varieties of career topics. And the annual webinar is what we are witnessing today. We also do some engagement on the platform where we share ideas, do the mentoring, and sometimes share some opportunities like scholarships and a job opportunity as well. And then sometimes we also engage the community in terms of research. Like this time we did a research with Kano State, I think drug consumables company. And we also would do like an awareness through media companies, where I think last year we did, if I say last year, I mean 2023. So we did with some radio call-in programs with Federal Radio Kaduna and one in Kano with one of the local radios. And of course, we do also career guidance on daily basis. So our achievements. So like I said, this year we achieved less. I mean, we didn't have much to because most of us were engaged somewhere else. We're a little bit busy, so we are unable to do as much as what we do before. So, but nevertheless, we were able to do the following. So major achievement were the bi-weekly webinars where our members participated or happened to be our speakers. And by this, they share the notes with us, and at the same time, they also improve their own skills of presentation. Then we have the quarterly webinar where we invited Dr. Isra Khalil from Primary Health Network Tasmania. We also invited Dr. Olive, I think from Royal Hobart Hospital. I think she's now in Australian Institute of Welfare. We also invited Pharm Umar Ahmad from Amina Kano Teaching Hospital. And then we had a major achievement, which we recorded. We did a panel discussion, which I could say, is one of the most successful webinar we ever had from our inception. This is a panel discussion where we invited some experts across the disciplines. We had Umar Ahmad, who was a pharmacist from AKTH, a deputy director from Amina Kano Teaching Hospital. And we have pharmacist Hamis Hassan, who is a very renowned international expert in public health, who worked with Results in Health Abuja. And we have engineer Jamil Abubakar, who was an engineer, then crossed over to become one of the top financial experts in Dubai. And then we have also Umar Mohammed, who also works in Dubai. And this session was chaired by Pharm Abasambo, who is one of the directors of Suifa Nigeria. And the session was well attended. And if you check our YouTube channel, it's one of the highest, I think, with the highest viewers. So the discussion talked about like how you can explore, like as a pharmacist, because that's the background of most of us, how you can step outside the pharmacy arena to other areas to explore, like how you can survive not only within your pharmacy boxing ring, how you can also survive outside the box. And we realized that, yes, as a pharmacist, there is a lot you can do outside and you can excel. And I think the webinar proved that. So this is like some of the flyers of our bi-weekly presentation, just to show you. This is Zayan, and we have the one by Ayas Wada and one by Abubakar, Mustafa, and one of our sister pharmacists, Fatima Awal. And also for the quarterly webinars, this is Dr. Olive and Dr. Umar and Dr. Isra Khalil. And then this is the webinar I just told you. And we call it more than just a pharmacist, like you're a pharmacist by just profession, but by actual practice, you are beyond who you are. And then for the annual webinar, from inception in 2017, we did an inaugural webinar. You can see Professor Mora at the center, who has been our chairman and from the first day we started up to date. And then we have Professor Chetty, who was the Dean of Faculty of Pharmacy, Bayero University. And then we have the second one, 17 in the Bayero University, where we had many important dignitaries. Standing there is Professor Ibrahim Yakasai, who is the current Dean of the faculty. And then we had another one through virtual, that's immediately after COVID, and it was attended by participants, still chaired by Mora. And then we have an excerpt from US, Dr. Phil Adu, and one of our own, Professor Yusuf from Qatar University. And then we have another one, two speakers, one but Dr. Abubakar Araka, who is a staff of National Hospital Abuja. And then we have pharmacist Kuja Timothy from UK. And then last year, 2023, then we had our daddy, Pharmacist Ibrahim Babasho, who is the current registrar and chief executive officer of Pharmacy Council of Nigeria. And we had a guest speaker, Associate Professor Kehinde O. Obamiro, who is assistant professor at James Cook University, Queensland. And today we are witnessing another very important milestone in our history, the celebration of 7th year anniversary, where we invited Dr. Sheraz Ali from the Royal Hobart Hospital, Australia. And we also have pharmacist Yusuf Idris, who is a technical officer with WHO headquarters Geneva. And we have Megan Smith, who is the senior lecturer at the University of Tasmania and principal policy officer at the Department of Health. And then the reason why we choose today's webinar to navigate career opportunities through a challenging economy. And we also, with the current economic meltdown globally, so we feel like as a pharmacy, when you finish pharmacy, then what? As a researcher, after you finish all the research, you make all the publication, all the citation, then what are you up to? So the first speaker, that's Dr. Megan Smith, will talk about people like us. Like me, I'm a pharmacy by profession and by practice, but when I did my PhD was partly pharmacy, but the whole part is public health. So in this case, after this, where am I going? Pharmacy or public health? So Megan will share with us her journey, and if you find yourself in my situation where you need to go in public health. And then as a pharmacy, when you finish, then most of us might not want to practice like the pharmacy fully. And you might try to work with the WHO or United Nations organizations. And then here we have pharmacist Yusuf, who will tell us how, as a pharmacy, you can navigate through the United Nations system organization and how you can get job there and excel. And as well, if as a researcher, you finish research, or publication, yes, you'll be thinking about going to the academia or research and development. Then there's another area that you definitely go, available area that you go and you excel. And that area, I know in Nigeria is not that very popular. And we have Dr. Sheraz Ali, who will shed more light about clinical research associate. What is clinical research associate? What do they do and how you can become one? Before we move into the next on the whole item of the agenda, I will just introduce some of our members to see who they are. I don't have to say anything. I will just roll the slides. With your permission, moderator, I will just roll over the slides just to see the faces of our members who has been contributing from the beginning and has been with us for the whole 7 years and still counting. This is Pharmacy Burji, A.S. Wada, Ibrahim Hamidu, Julde, Momo, Mustafa, Muhammad Mubarak, Fatima, Baraka, Zayanu, Awal, Abubakar Isa, Kankia, Malami, Ambata, Abubakar, Biliaminu, Kaulat, Al-Qasim, Safia, Inua, Anas, Abbas, Barrister, and this is us. And thank you so much, and welcome to the 7th anniversary webinar. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Abubakar Ibrahim Jato, for this wonderful opening remark. I have to really acknowledge the achievements pharmacy scholars have made. We have come along for many years, and all these achievements, I will actually really honestly credit them to our hardworking and very inspiring president, Dr. Ibrahim Jato.
Thank you.
And these achievements, not only to us, we have seen a lot of even societal impact that have come through all the contributions we have made for these years. So thank you so much, Dr. Ibrahim Jato. So
So
our next item on the agenda is the chairman's opening remark. But before then, I would like to introduce
but
the chairman of the occasion.
I think
The chairman of the occasion is,
Mustafa, I, I think he
yes,
is,
sir.
I don't think he is, has he joined? Because,
I think I
Yes,
saw him
yes,
briefly.
he's around.
Yeah, yeah,
okay, so I don't, okay.
yeah. So
All
our
right.
chairman is not someone that is new to most of us, all of us from Nigeria and even abroad. Is no one but Prof. Ahmed Ibrahim Tijani Mura, OON, BSc Pharmacy, MBA,
All right.
kayayen Sarkin Musulmi, wakilin maganin Zazzau. So next slide, Dr. Jato. Prof. Mora is the immediate past chairman of the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, PCN, and during his time as the registrar of the PCN, he significantly broadened the scope of pharmacy profession in Nigeria and beyond. The Kayayan Sarkin Muslimi is a receiver of numerous awards and fellowships to fit his charismatic personality. Eminent Persons Awards of the Nigerian Association of Industrial Pharmacists in 1998, Award as Benefactor of the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Ahmadu Bello University, 2004. Next slide. Pharmaceutical Leadership Award as the African Executive of the Year in 2009 and by African Leadership Magazine in 2010. He has received the Golden Leadership Iconic Award by the Presidential Diary magazine in 2021. He was also nominated as the most distinguished alumnus in the history of the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, in several occasions. One of it is the 50th anniversary of the celebration of ABU Zaria in 2012. Next slide. Some of his other achievements also include he is a fellow of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, a fellow of West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists, fellow Institute of Healthcare Management, Nigeria. Next slide. He has also attended more than 270 conferences, workshops, seminars, symposiums from 1988 to date, which is over 30 years in Nigeria and abroad. He has authored and co-authored about 9 books. He also edited more than 22 books, most of which are geared toward advancing pharmacy profession in Nigeria and beyond. Our chairman of the occasion is currently a professor of pharmacy at the Ibinidium University, Benin, Nigeria. So without further ado, allow me to welcome warmly our chairman, Professor Ahmed Noura. Sir, if you are with us, you are most welcome.
Mustafa, I think I saw as if he left. I'm not sure whether it has some technical challenges, but I can't see him
Oh,
from the participants. So um, I'm not sure. Dr. Jatawa, have you contacted him?
Yes, I did, but I think he hasn't responded. I think we can proceed.
We
Well,
can
anytime
proceed,
he
yeah.
joined,
the next,
yeah, I'm sure we can
yeah,
we
when
should
he
allow him
joined, he
now to
can catch up
provide
with
his.
his presentation.
Yes.
So so we're going to take the second item on the agenda. When the Prof. Mora is around, then we can still fit him in to present his opening remark. So our next item is a webinar presentation, and this webinar presentation is going to be delivered by Megan Smith, MERD. Megan Smith is a senior lecturer at the University of Tasmania, Australia, and at the same time, principal policy officer at the Tasmanian Department of Health, Australia. So just to say some few words about Megan, Meg completed a Master of Economics and Regional Development in 2018, which included research into the role of social network in supporting economic development through agglomeration in regional Australia. She brings a significant allied health professional history, working across a variety of Commonwealth and state healthcare systems in direct service, policy development, and project implementation roles. In addition to experience working with the community service sectors of the Irish and United Kingdom governments. She joined the University of Tasmania's public health team, teaching health economics. Next slide, Jato. She is currently a senior lecturer, health economics within the advanced practice suite leading to the development and delivery of health economics specialization. She also continues in principal policy officer role within Tasmanian Health Department, where she has led or contributed to a number of public health responses, including child safeguarding, COVID-19 response evaluation, and patient flow. Next slide. So now, without further ado, Megan is going to take us through this very interesting topic, exploring new frontiers and unconventional journey into a public health career, the butterfly nebula. I think this will be quite interesting to all of us. Yeah. So Dr. Megan, if you are with us, you are most welcome.
Thank you.
I would like to hand over the podium to you.
Thank you very much. I would like to begin by first congratulating the Pharmacy Scholars Initiative on your 7th year anniversary. That's an incredible achievement, and to extend my thanks to you for inviting me to talk to you this evening. I suppose because I'm presenting from Hobart in Tasmania, I will do an acknowledgement of traditional owners. So I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land from which I'm based this evening, the Muwinina people of Lutruwita, Tasmania. Pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge that this land was never ceded. I'd also like to acknowledge and pay my respects to any other community elders who may be joining us here this evening. It's a great honour to come and talk to you all this evening. I feel like I'm probably at the other end of my career. So if there's anything that I have learned that I can share that will be of interest or value, I hope that will be of use. So can I have the next slide, please, Ibrahim? So I suppose I began my career as a social worker, actually, at the University of South Australia in 1991, which led me to nearly 20 years in direct service with clients. And in this role, I worked in hospital settings in Alice Springs, South Australia and Darwin, and in child protection in the UK and tertiary health care systems in Western Australia. To update and reconnect with my counselling skills, I completed a graduate diploma in human services with a major in mediation and narrative therapy in 2003. And in 2010, I moved from direct practice to community development, working on a statewide homelessness project that co-designed solutions with local communities. I suppose, why am I telling you this? Because my path into a public health career, I'm currently, as was explained in the introduction, working on developing a health economic suite in the Masters of Public Health at the University of Tasmania. So where I've ended up is very different to where I started, and I guess that's probably potentially a pathway for some of you. So I was frustrated by the ongoing systemic challenges of disadvantage and found myself at the beginning of what is essentially an economics degree in 2013. And then by 2017, my family and I had moved to Tasmania, where I became increasingly involved in policy and project spaces within the Department of Health here in Tasmania. It doesn't surprise me now at this end of my career that I've ended up working in the public health sphere, as I was always looking at the systemic levers that drive acute healthcare demand, which invariably bring you back to public health, to a public health discussion every time. This ultimately led me to complete a graduate certificate in clinical redesign in 2020 and I started work at the University of Tasmania teaching health economics into the public health master's qualification. I am really, really passionate about people in public health understanding economics and the economics of health and the questions of sustainability and resource allocation. And I think that's an increasingly interesting and relevant space as we tackle increasing health demand with decreasing health budgets. So currently I'm a Principal Policy Officer within the Department of Health Tasmania, looking at the challenges of child safety and wellbeing, which is also increasingly being viewed through a public health lens, as we understand the impact of childhood trauma on health system demand across the lifespan. And I'm a senior lecturer within the Advanced Practice Masters Suite at the University of Tasmania. Within the public health space, I've also worked in the department's review of its COVID-19 response, and as part of the tobacco team drafting state legislation, working to change and respond to Commonwealth laws limiting the sale and use of vapes. As part of the acute care system, I've led projects integrating First Nation recommendations for healthcare delivery, and those other sort of really critical health issues like redesigning subacute care systems to maximise available Commonwealth funding streams. So that's a bit of background as to where I started and where I currently am now. Can I have the next slide, please? So what do we know about health? I suppose where I've decided to start with is to talk about what we might consider or what we need to understand about the public health challenges that are facing health systems universally across the globe, and how they might impact or influence public health career choices for people looking to move into a public health career. So these include rising inequality, both within countries and between countries and regions across the globe, which obviously has a really large knock-on effect to healthcare and healthcare provision. Environmental health and climate change, which includes our recent COVID-19 pandemic history, which reminded us of the direct relationship between planetary and human health. And one of the subjects we're developing at the University of Tasmania is ecological health and healthcare. So how does healthcare impact on ecological impacts and ecological challenges? So Australia gets a reality check every summer about the ecological relationship between planetary and human health, with severe weather events that include fires, storms, and heat waves. And where I am sitting here at the Hobart at the moment, it's quite a hot day here in Hobart, so I'm getting that reminder right now. Changing population demographics and the rise of non-communicable diseases are shaping acute healthcare demand, and the increasing prevalence of mental health issues in populations is another growing global challenge. Stretched healthcare systems that are increasingly unsustainable, that eat up ever-increasing proportions of national GDP. I know here in Australia, I think over the last decade, the healthcare budget has almost doubled as a percentage of GDP, and it's around 10% at the moment. And as populations age, that's likely to increase. Antimicrobial resistance and all that brings with it, at times feels like we're standing on the cusp of history rewinding, and the erosion of trust in public institutions, which again we saw throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, which is significantly impacts on a broad range of public health campaigns, and is a challenge going forward. So can I have the next slide, please? So as public health continues to evolve from its traditional base as a reactive population-based response to health challenges, utilising tools like the easily recognisable primary health promotion and public health campaigns, and in Australia, we would know that as QUIT campaigns. It's a really obvious public health campaign, and the Life Be In It advertising campaign of the 70s and 80s, which encouraged people to get up and get moving. Increasingly, and especially since COVID-19, the role of public health has broadened, and with it, so that the skill set required to work in that space has become even more diverse as the work has become more challenging and interrelated. Public health has increasingly expanded into roles that include research and evaluation. Research and evaluation as it informs policy design, evaluating projects and project implementation. And that's certainly an area that I've spent quite a bit of time in the last sort of decade. Policy development, understanding system complexities that influence public health outcomes, whilst advocating for policy outcomes that improve equity. And that's again about that's where the health economics lens comes in as well, certainly for the work that I do. Project implementation, knowing how to implement and scope and evaluate and monitor and implement a project outcome is a skill base that is increasingly in demand in the public health space. As we look to embed practical solutions and responses to public health challenges. And emergency management, so the emergency management skill set and knowledge base, how do health systems drive, lead, and respond not only to health system emergencies, but to those broader emergencies that countries face. It's an increasing and growing, certainly here in Australia, a growing area of public health. With increasing bushfires and increasing heat waves, that's an area where we're seeing a lot of growth in roles. Data and analytics, both qualitative and quantitative data. How do we use data to better design, deliver, and evaluate to make sure that we're maximising our health system budget in the most effective and efficient way? And of course, really good communication skills. How do we bring communities along with us by co-designing interventions and solutions, especially in the face of public distrust and misinformation? So a little bit about an example of how these roles are utilised in a recent work role that I was involved with, the COVID-19 Tasmanian Health System Response Review. We adopted a disaster management format known as a lessons learned process and undertook an extensive thematic analysis that involved over 3,000 individual pieces of data. We used a policy development skill set. We were asked to research and suggest potential policy responses. We used project implementation skills by scoping out how some of the policy changes would be implemented. And some of that was around legislative change. We used our emergency management skill set and knowledge. We used our data analytics to interpret the qualitative thematic analysis, to undertake the qualitative thematic analysis. And we used our communication skills because a big part of the work our team was to manage communication, both in getting staff to contribute their valid lessons learnt, but then also to share what we had discovered in ways that could be used to motivate change across the organisation and the broader government. Can I have the next slide, thanks? So given the challenges we know about that the healthcare systems will face, it's worth considering how will large public health campaigns succeed into the future, and then what skill set might they require. And I know that there are some much more esteemed people speaking after me, so I'll let them talk about some of the global campaigns that are afoot. But here in Australia, we have the Stronger Rural Health Strategy. That's going to be a big part of the work of the Australian federal government that will drive a lot of change in health systems here, and the Primary Healthcare Plan, 10-year plan. And another big move that will influence the way that we deliver public health services and public health will be the value-based care changes that are about to, if not actually underway, and that will significantly change the way that we think and evaluate and understand our public health initiatives. So can I have the next slide? So I suppose in these changing circumstances, to ensure that our public health systems and our public health profession is able to respond, we need a really diverse skill set. And some of the skills, these aren't all of the skills by any means, but these are some of the skills that I think that I have seen and that I have seen grow and become more prevalent and more sought after within the public health space. For me, especially the economic evaluation, being able to put that economic lens around public health interventions. It's been a really that's been a growth area, as well as advocacy, project management skills, problem solving, systems thinking skills. How do we know how all of this stuff fits together? So I think I would encourage you to have a look at those broader skill sets that can extend and build upon your research and evaluation and professional writing skill sets that will, is the next easy progression into policy development, into project management, data analysis, and economic evaluation, and then advocacy and communication skills. So that's probably, can we go to the final slide, please? So that's the presentation for me and some of the in a really quick 15 minutes. Some of the skill sets that I think will be in high demand over the coming years in the public health space. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Megan Smith, for this inspiring presentation. Now I can be able to relate what you actually mean by the unconventional journey into the public health specialization. So thank you so much. I believe our audience have some questions or clarification, which we may address at the end of the presentation, just for us to allow other presenters also present their talk. And then later we can all look at the topic and just discuss it all along. Yeah. So thank you so much for the presentation. So our next speaker is pharmacist Idris Yusuf. Pharmacist Idris Yusuf, who is a technical officer and a pharmaceutical quality assessor with the World Health Organization, Geneva, Switzerland. Yusuf Idris Abubakar is a pharmacist with extensive training and experience in public health and biotechnology innovation. He holds a Pharm and MSc in public health and regulatory science from Purdue University before transitioning to regulatory practice. His expertise includes evaluating marketing authorization, conducting on-site audits for GMP compliance, and ensuring the use of sustainable specifications and analytical methods in the regulatory testing of health products. Next slide. From 2016 to 2024, Yusuf served as the consultant or dossier assessor for the WHO Medicine Free Qualification Program. In March 2024, Yusuf joined the WHO as a technical officer and pharmaceutical quality assessor with the medicine pre-qualification team in the Division of Access to Medical and Health Products. His contributions have been pivotal in global quality assurance efforts. Next slide. Okay, so permit me to welcome Dr. Yusuf Ibrahim Idris, who will be taking us through career opportunities for pharmacists in the United Nations System Organization. So Dr. Idris, if you are with us, you are most welcome.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, I can hear you, Dr. Yusuf.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for this elaborate introduction. And As you know, I'm Idris Yusuf Abakar, and let me start by joining the role in congratulating the Pharmacy Scholars Initiative for achieving this important and significant milestone. Congratulations. Also, I would like to express my delight for having on this call Professor Etimora, who has been a role model, a mentor, an inspiration to many of us. So your mentorship has actually bolstered our confidence in taking greater challenges. Yeah, so thank you very much, sir, for the many efforts you have made in the past. Yeah, seeing us through to this attainment. Regarding this topic, when Dr. Ibrahim Jatau contacted me um, that I should, or he's proposing that I should be presenting in the 7th anniversary of the Scholars Initiative. I was a kind of a concern. We now navigated what possible topic that may be relevant. But he later narrowed down to this very topic. But I was like, I'm not a professional HR person. How can I handle this? But of course, in this talk, I will be providing some useful tips, which perhaps may set the context for a more robust discussion during the Q&A. Some of the participants on call may be in better position and may provide better or additional insight into the topic that is being discussed. So let's get going. Next slide. This is the outline of my presentation. I will be covering this within the allotted 15 minutes. I will be taking on introduction to the UN system, the job areas for pharmacists, competencies required, how to join the organizations, and I will try to address this is very important, starting as a consultant, then conclusion and recap. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So the United Nations system includes a variety of specialized agencies, programs, funds, and other entities, each with its own focus and activities, including some other partner organizations which may not be part of the United Nations, but have play a very significant role and also have positions for pharmacists, like the Global Fund, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and so on and so forth. So these organizations together collaborate to address global challenges and improve the economic and social conditions of people worldwide through the provision of support to member states. Next slide. Yeah. Though, of course, we have seen an elaborate list, though, and of course, not exhaustive, but I'm biased towards these very ones that I have enumerated here, which I feel that their focus areas have so much to do with pharmacy, or have so much to offer to as in for pharmacists. Mind you, not being exaggerative, the versatility in the training and knowledge and capacity of a pharmacist rightly fit into the diverse opportunities most of the organizations can offer. So it's not just about this, but also even other organizations with the different positions that they may be offering. A pharmacist has the capacity to fit into positions that may not necessarily be captured in this very talk. Next slide. So we will be looking at the common job areas for pharmacists in the United system, though of course, as I've previously mentioned, this is not exhaustive, but just like a kind of a snapshot of some relevant areas. Next slide. So job areas for a pharmacist may be in clinical and public health related roles, in areas that deal with access and availability of medical and health products, could be in the area of health systems strengthening, could be in areas of medication management and distribution, or even in the implementation and as in implementing health programs, and also monitoring roles, monitoring and evaluation roles. Also in research and development, it could be a position that has to do with the conduct of drug safety and efficacy studies. It could be in the development of health policy standards and guidelines for medical and health products. Next slide. Also, in pharmaceutical good manufacturing practices, quality control and assurance, roles of providing technical assistance to local manufacturers of medical products, roles that have to do with ensuring safety and efficacy of quality of health products, and also roles that have to do with maintaining high standards in the pharmaceutical industry. Also, another important area is in supply chain logistics and management, where pharmacists can play a role in procurement. There may be positions and opportunities that have to do with procurement and logistics. Also in the area of quality assurance and access and availability of medicines. Next slide. So what does it actually mean working with any of these UN organizations? There are a lot of interesting and very attractive career prospects. There is opportunity for growth and specialization. You will have the ability to build skills and competencies to pursue your interests, values, as in life interests, values, and goals. And also, I think you will hold that privileged position of holding the status of an international civil servant. But of course, the privileges that come with that should not be abused anyway. And one interesting thing about these organizations, in most cases, they don't have the structured system of our level to level progression in terms of perhaps seniority or promotion. It provides that enablement for a kind of a staff or a personnel to take proactive control of his career aspiration and development. Usually, positions are not really guaranteed. They are occupied. Higher positions are actually attained or occupied through certain competitive selection process. So you can start today as a kind of a professional, mid-level professional, and tomorrow there may be a position that can be advertised, and because you have fulfilled the eligibility criteria, nobody will stop you from taking up such a position. So that career prospect or opportunity is there. And there is, of course, professional job satisfaction. You feel proud, valued, and engaged. There is also potential for international assignment, collaborations, and networking. It provides opportunity for you to acquire skills and reputation that increase your employability in marketplace as a whole. Also, what may really be very dear to the hearts of so many of us here, working with these organizations usually will offer you the privilege to serve the underserved and vulnerable population. I think it's sometimes this is something that many of us value a lot. So working with this organization offer you such privilege. Next slide. On competency requirement, I really would like to address this. The reason is it forms an important aspect of your eligibility to take up advertised positions. In fact, most of the advertised positions have listing of competencies required. So it's important you familiarize yourself with the competency requirement for the positions that you may be vying for. So generally, what we know, competency is like combination of knowledge, skills, traits, attributes, and that collectively enable a person to perform successfully in a job position. Next slide. So usually, if you come across a job or a position description, you may see competencies being described as those that are mandatory, core, managerial, or leadership. However, just as espoused by the iceberg theory, you know, the behavior that is usually manifested on the surface are underlined by certain values, beliefs, and past experience. And at the heart of these competencies across the UN agencies are these important values: professionalism, integrity, and accountability. Next slide. So what are those competencies that you may come across in a job, in a position description? So these are the various mix of the competencies that may be required of you to demonstrate as a kind of a candidate for a position in any of or in some or most of the UN organizations. Analytical skills, planning and organizing, client orientation, technical expertise, your overall attitude to work, teamwork, respecting and promoting cultural and individual differences. Because there is an aspect, as we'll come to see in later slides, in the process of selection, you usually have to undergo competency-based interview. And it is during this interview that you need to demonstrate the attainment, or you need to demonstrate the achievement of these competencies. So depending on the position you are applying for and the listed competencies, you may have to familiarize yourself with what they are and the behaviors that will showcase the competencies. Next slide. So how to join the organizations? Next slide. Many of the organizations have career portals where jobs are advertised with the provision also to create your profile. What is important, I think, whether or not at a particular instance you are applying for a given job, I will advise that people or individuals that may be interested in taking up jobs with any of these organizations to avail themselves that opportunity of creating their personal profile under the general job category, because there is that provision. And what that affords you is that you get constant notifications on advertised jobs, and based on your indicated competence or preference, as in preferences. So that will enable you follow on what is available and what you can apply for. So it's good we get ourselves familiarized with the existence of these portals, and also take the opportunity of creating our personal profiles if we haven't done so. So next slide. Then what are those positions that may likely be, or what are the type of positions that you may likely come across advertised in most of the UN organizations? Yeah. Staff categories or positions may include professional and higher categories. These usually are internationally recruited and are expected to serve at different duty stations throughout their career with the organization. And in most cases, depending, like for the P position, usually you see in the job description, whether it is a professional position, usually denoted by P, P1, P2, P3, up to P6. And then the D is for the directorate positions. And also there are the higher positions, that is like the assistant director general positions, which are usually very senior appointments. And also there are the national officers, professional officers, which usually are recruited locally, those that work in the offices that are located in the member states. Then also as we'll come to see, there are also positions for consultants and individual contractors. There are internship programs for people that are undergoing training. And there are some of the organizations that have certain other modalities, like the young professionals programs that usually catch them young as individuals graduate from the university with zero experience. They can take advantage of this type of programs so that they can gain experience to be able to be eligible for those higher positions. And also that will enable them familiarize themselves with the knowledge and the working of the system, which many of these organizations value a lot when they are recruiting. Then also there are the volunteering position or the volunteers program. Those also are important pathways or routes through which you can easily get into the organization, because it affords you the opportunity to familiarize yourself with the system and also the procedure of the different organizations. Then contractual modalities can be in terms of whether the position is on temporary appointment basis, short-term or long-term, or on fixed-term appointment or on continuous appointment. All these have different duration. They have different privileges or conditions of service. So it all depends on the advertised position. The contractual modalities will be assigned depending on what is available and what is being required by an organization. So the application process. An important note, having identified a position that you want to fill, and as I've advised previously about creating your personal profile, even if it means under the general position that is not specific to any of the advertised position, you need to really take note of this important point. Number one, know yourself. What are your competencies? What is your qualification? It is important to stress here that many of those professional positions actually require some advanced degrees. Yeah, and the very high positions will require you to have a PhD, but sometimes, or many a times, a master's and certain cognate experience usually can as well qualify you for some of those positions in lieu of having a PhD. But of course, before starting an application process, you should know yourself, know what are your competencies, what are your qualifications, and so on and so forth. Then understand the position. You need to understand the position. This will go into tailoring your CV to reflect the position that you are applying for, and also in crafting your cover letter. Then you prepare your application. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so basically after you have made your application, you have submitted, and one important thing I need to mention, yes, of course, while creating your profile, you submit a CV, but not that such a CV is in an electronic copy. is in an electronic copy.
Nema musali
It's
ngomba ganshi ba
it's
deka
an
abuna
electronic
tambaya ce na
copy.
yi donna ne mai.
Interferences. Okay, it's an electronic copy that is adaptable. So you can edit it at any point in time to adapt it to the position that you are applying for. Then the selection and assessment process. Many of the organizations have like three stages, 2 or 3 stages. You take a written test. Now, if you are successful at that, then you now come to the stage of being a presentation and also being subjected to the competency-based interview. That's why I emphasize the issue of the competencies, familiarizing yourself with the competencies and how you can demonstrate behaviors or your past experiences that can speak to those competency requirements. Next slide. So the competency-based interviews, usually the competencies that are covered during the interview are those that are reflected in the advertised vacancies. And it involves that you demonstrate evidence, or you provide evidence that you have that level of competency. And as a prospective candidate, you need to pay attention to those behavioral indicators that correspond to those competencies. Because, of course, the understanding is that your past behavior can kind of suggest or predict your future performance. Next slide. Then some focus areas during the competency-based interviews: technical knowledge, as in problem-solving skills, communication skills, teamwork, and collaboration. These are some of the areas that may come under spotlight when it comes to competency-based interviews, depending on the organization you are applying for. Next slide. So now, starting as a consultant, as I've made mention, because many of us might not have worked in an international environment, and one of the requirements in many of these agencies is having, especially for international recruited positions, is having worked in an international environment. So starting as a consultant will offer you the opportunity to actually gain experience, build competencies through various tasks, and you will now eventually meet certain competency criteria. And it affords you the opportunity of networking and also professional relationships. Like in WHO, that is what they call, many of the programs in WHO department have what they call roster of consultants. They keep, like, they advertise for those positions you now apply for. If eventually you are selected, you now be in their list of consultants for that expertise or for that area. So anytime they have a work, they call on you. And having worked for them for a given period of time, that now a kind of afford you with that experience and competencies that may be required to fill in any position in future. Next slide. So in conclusion, we have actually been able to look at the many diverse roles and positions that are available in the UN system, and the emphasis on competence and continual improvement. Especially what we take home is the fact that any position there is actually open for competition. You can competitively, you can join the agency today, and you can be, depending on your career interest. Some people may be interested in just deepening their technical expertise. Some may aim at certain cross-functional job kind of experience. They want to like have broad experience across different job streams and so on and so forth. So depending on what you are interested in, you will be able to take this thing, what do you call it? There are opportunities for you to fit in. I think that's it from me. Yeah, thank you very much for listening.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Idris Yusuf, for this wonderful and inspiring presentation. I believe this talk has come at really the right time. Rarely we get people to share with us direct experience from what they do as a profession, especially when it has to do with these multinational organizations. And I believe this will be very important for the audience, especially we have a lot of early career professionals or those that are just uh, graduates or trying to find the perfect niche in their career. So I thank you so much, sir. So maybe later, I believe there could be some discussion in the topic. So at the end of the presentations, all the three, then we can all take the questions and comments, contributions all together. So thank you so much, Doctor. So our next speaker is Dr. Sheraz Ali, who is a clinical research officer at the Royal Harvard Hospital, Australia. Next slide, Dr. Jato. Dr. Jato? Okay. So Dr. Sheraz Ali earned his PhD from the University of Tasmania. His extensive research interests focus on clinical trials and medication safety, leading to over 35 peer-reviewed publications in top-tier journals like JAMA, the British Journal of Clinical Pharmacology, and Frontiers in Pharmacology. His professional journey includes superheading research projects and clinical trials for pharmaceutical companies and Ministry of Health in Saudi Arabia, as well as serving on the International Ethics Committee. He is also a reviewer and guest editor for notable journals, including the JAMDA and then the Frontiers in Pharmacology as well. Dr. Sheraz is currently managing oncology and hematology trials in Australia. Next slide. So without further ado, permit me to welcome Dr. Sheraz Ali, who is going to be taking us through an overview of clinical research associate. I think this is very relevant to the audience. So Dr. Sheraz, if you are with us, you are most welcome, and I will hand over the podium to you. I'm not sure whether Dr. Sheraz is with us.
He is.
Okay, sorry. I muted everyone. Maybe we can change the setting. Sorry, just a minute. Yeah, Dr. Sheraz, can you unmute yourself now?
Thank you, Mustafa, for the kind introduction. Can you hear me?
Thank you so much. You are most welcome. We can hear you, sir.
Okay. So this is Sheraz. I completed Doctor of Pharmacy and then Masters in Public Health from Finland. And I worked as a head of scientific unit at Ministry of Health, Saudi Arabia. I started my career as a clinical research associate. That was my first job after completing my pharmacy degree. In Saudi Arabia, I was working as a head of scientific unit and conducted many clinical trials. I was selected as a co-investigator for the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine for their CRASH 3 trial at Saudi Arabia. And after moving to Australia, I completed my PhD in pharmacy from University of Tasmania. And after completing the PhD, I joined Royal Hobart Hospital, Department of Health, Tasmania as a clinical research officer. Next slide. Okay. So it's out of the scope of this presentation that I won't be able to discuss in detail about the clinical trials, as the focus of my today's talk is about the clinical research associate and how can you enter into that role. So before moving forward, I will briefly explain about the trials. Clinical trials are an important part of developing new medical and other interventions that may improve the health and well-being of all subjects. So when we talk about the clinical trials, we don't use the word doctor. We never say patient. For the doctor, we say principal investigator or co-investigator. When it comes to the patients, we use the word trial subject. So when you read the document Good Clinical Practice, you will find the first section, which is about the glossary. You will find all the terminologies that you use. So clinical trials actually are conducted at a very specialized place, and you have to hide things from the public. You have to use specific terminologies for the trials. And many clinical trials actually allow researchers to try out new treatments, tests, or procedures. So when I talk about the treatments, tests, or procedures, so it means that we refer them as interventions. And in the clinical trials, we compare existing interventions that are already in the market. We can test new ways to use or combine existing interventions. And we can also test new ways to deliver therapies and other care. And when we talk about that, why we need clinical trials. So these trials are essential to the development of new interventions that help people to live longer and to have less pain or disability. So there are 4 different phases of the trials, and before that, there are different types of trials. I won't go in detail. We have treatment trials, and then we have diagnostic or screening related trials, and then we have prevention trials. And the phases of trials, it starts from the phase 1, where we test a new intervention for the first time. We only recruit a small number of people between 20 and 80, and you actually determine a safe dosage range and identify side effects. And after the phase 1, you enter into the phase 2. In phase 2, you use a large group of people, like several hundred people you recruit for your clinical trial, where you determine the efficacy, and then you further evaluate the safety. After the phase 2, you move towards the phase 3 trial. That's the most important trial. And once you get approval for the phase 3 from the US FDA, your intervention, it comes into the market. So in phase 3, we recruit large groups of people from several hundred to several thousand, and we compare the intervention to other standard interventions, experimental interventions, and standard care or placebo. Sometimes you go for head-to-head trial, and sometimes you compare an existing medication with the placebo, and sometimes you compare the new intervention or treatment with the placebo. And in phase 3, you also monitor the adverse effects and you collect information that will allow the intervention to be used safely. So after the phase 3, you get the final approval for the trial, and then you enter into the phase 4. So in pharmaceutical companies, mostly they call them post-marketing surveillance studies under phase 4. And phase 4 clinical trials happen after intervention is in use, and you monitor the effectiveness of the approved intervention. So it's not the tested intervention. So you monitor the effectiveness of the approved intervention in the general population, and you collect information about any adverse effects associated with widespread use over longer periods of time. And it may also be used to investigate potential use of intervention in a different condition or in combination with other therapies. So when we talk about can you please go back to the first slide? Okay, so the background is in 1980s, actually, that era marked the rapid growth of contract research organizations driven by the increasing complexity of clinical trials and the need for specialized support in drug development. And pharmaceutical organizations, they started outsourcing clinical trial management to contract research organizations to reduce their cost and improve efficiency. And that actually led to a surge in demand for clinical research professionals, especially the skilled clinical research professionals. As this industry expanded in 1980s, so the need for clinical research associate to manage or oversee trial operations and ensure that clinical trials will be conducted according to regulatory standards, it actually grew significantly. And in 1996, the International Conference on Harmonization, they finalized a document that's the most popular document, and we call it Good Clinical Practice Guidelines. It's actually basically a recognized set of ethical and scientific quality standards for clinical trials. You'll find the guidance if you want to conduct a clinical trial, and if you're not aware about the specific terminologies, like what's the meaning of subject, what's the role of monitor, sponsor, contract research organizations. So you have to read that document provided by the ICH. And this guideline emphasizes the importance of subject safety, data integrity, and regulatory compliance in clinical research, which actually made the role of clinical research associates even more crucial. You also see the term monitor. You call them clinical trial monitors, clinical research monitors. You also call them clinical research associates. So these professionals, they became integral to ensuring that clinical trials adhere to GCP standards, and they conduct site monitoring visits. They review the documentation, whether remotely or when they visit the site. And CRAs ensure that ethical and legal requirements are met always. And but with the formalization of CRA role, so responsibilities become more defined as clinical trial monitors. They took on key tasks like it starts from the site initiation visits, we call SIVs, where CRAs ensure that trial sites are ready for the study by confirming site staff are trained and that the site is fully equipped. And then they perform the monitoring visits. So they regularly visit actually the trial sites to monitor the progress of clinical trials. They check patient enrollment, data collection, and ensure proper documentation. And one of the most important role of the CRAs is SDVs. This is source data verification, where CRAs verify that the data recorded on case report forms match the source document, ensuring data integrity. Most of you, I'm sure, are aware about the CRFs or case report form. These are the standard forms that we use to enter the clinical trial data. And if you have any medical report or any document related to patient, so that actually is the source document. So clinical trial or clinical research associate, when he or she visits the site, he has to perform the source data verification. He matched the source documents with the case report form, and he also identifies the discrepancies. And if he identifies any discrepancies, then he shares the final monitoring report with the site staff. So next slide. Okay, so when we talk about the key stakeholders in trials, so definitely you need finance. It's an expensive activity. It's impossible that you can conduct a trial without a strong funding. So sponsors are mostly the pharmaceutical companies, sometimes academic institutions or universities also sponsor the trial. And that's the first important key stakeholder. And the second key stakeholder is clinical research associate, and you also call them clinical research monitors, or simply you can call them monitor. And the third most important key stakeholder in clinical trial is the investigator. And it's quite interesting that most of the people, they think that doctors will always be the principal investigator, but that's not the case. My one of my book chapter was first of its kind, that where I discuss about the role of clinical pharmacists as principal investigators in clinical trials. So when you read the ICH-GCP document, so it doesn't state that only the medical doctors will become principal investigators in the trials. Nurse can become the principal investigator. If you look at the US market, you see many experienced nurses, they are leading the trials as a principal investigator. And there are many experienced pharmacists, they can lead the trial as a principal investigator. But this is just unfortunate that pharmaceutical companies, it makes sense that they are doing business and they have to engage medical doctors sometime to promote their business, to engage them in marketing activities. And in 70-80% of trials, they select uh, medical doctors as a principal investigator. But I have to clear one thing, that you will never find any statement in the ICGCP document that only doctors are responsible or they can only become the principal investigator. If you are experienced healthcare professionals and you are educated, you have good experience and good skills, you can be the principal investigator, but the subject to one condition, that medical related decisions will always be taken by a medical doctor. So if you are a pharmacist or nurse or any healthcare professional, if you're leading the clinical trial, so if you experience any safety related issues, so you have to consult a medical doctor. So, but if medical doctor is already conducting a trial as a principal investigator, so he will take responsibility. So anything that happens during the clinical trial, so principal investigator is the leader who has to take responsibility. He can't put blame on anyone. At the end, he or she is the one who actually directs his or activities to the other trial team. So as I said, if I sum up, that sponsor provides funding resources and they ensure compliance with regulations. And monitors or CRAs, they ensure trial adherence to clinical trial protocols and regulations. They support the PI, like principal investigator. They also interact with the sponsor. And principal investigator, as I earlier said, that principal investigator leads the clinical trial at the trial site, ensuring patient safety. They have to ensure that trial is being conducted as per the standards. So he has to maintain the protocol adherence, and PI will also ensure that data for the trial is being collected accurately. Next slide. Okay, so if you start working as a clinical research associate, so in mostly in Western countries, you find two roles. The first one is in-house CRA, and you see that you work from the office, you support the senior clinical research associate, but you are based at the head office of the sponsors. So you don't often visit to the site, you just support the clinical research associate. So that's the role of in-house CRA. So in-house CRA will be based at the sponsor's site. It's a totally entirely office-based work. And there are some positions like you can work from home, that we call them home-based CRAs. And it's very rare that if you are entry-level CRA and you will get the opportunity to work as a home-based CRA. So you always have to start. When we talk about Australia, so it's very rare that you get the direct entry. in the trial as a CRA. So you need at least 6 months monitoring experience. If you don't have 6 months monitoring experience as a CRA, it's quite unlikely that you will end up getting an opportunity as a CRA. So you have to start with as a research coordinator, research assistant, or most commonly as in-house CRA. And once you get experience as an in-house CRA, then you get promoted to the full clinical research associate, and then you can visit the trial sites, and you can also monitor trials remotely or virtually. And next slide. Okay, so as I earlier shared about the role of clinical research associate, that monitoring, because we call them monitors. When we call them monitors, so it means they will be doing the monitoring. So there are two different types of monitoring. The first one is on-site monitoring, where the clinical research associate regularly visit the site. The site can be a trial institute at the academic institutions or university, and most commonly the trial site is a tertiary care setting. So CRA will directly interact with the site staff like doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and different study coordinators. And he will be performing the data verification at the trial site. And the second type of monitoring is remote or visual monitoring, where the clinical research associate utilize digital tools for the clinical trial progress and compliance check. And he also performs a data review remotely and also resolve issues virtually. Next slide. Okay, so when we talk about the clinical research associate responsibilities, so you don't directly jump into the clinical trial field. You have to first assess the feasibility of the trial. So, for example, like during a feasibility assessment for a multi-center study, so you have to first identify a site with exceptional research facilities and an experienced team with proven expertise in trials that they can ensure a successful trial setup with minimal delays. So feasibility of trial is the first step. Once you find out that you have the expert team at the trial site, then you move towards the site initiation visits. In short, we call SIVs. So in that you ensure that this site has all necessary equipment and trained staff. And as a CRA, you verify that patient informed consent are properly set up and ready for the patient recruitment. And then you perform the ongoing monitoring. And if you find any discrepancies during the trial, you identify discrepancies and then you share with the study team. And once you finish the trial, the final stage of the trial is the site closeout. If you're working as a study coordinator, so, and if you are CRA and you have to contact the study coordinator. So some people, they get confused between the role of study coordinators and clinical research associates. So clinical research associates are basically the monitors who will perform the feasibility of the trial. They will assess the site initiation visits. They will do the monitoring. They will be involved in the source data verification. But the study coordinator will be based at the trial site, who will be in touch with the CRA and the sponsors. And research coordinator will recruit the patients with the help of the consultants or oncologists or the physicians. And so when I share about the key stakeholders, so you are one of the key stakeholder, which is the monitor clinical research associate. And clinical research associates, they are from the sponsor sites. When we talk about research coordinators, they are based at the hospitals. And as a CRA, you have to interact with the clinical research coordinators. Most of the clinical research coordinators in Australia are nurses. There are few pharmacists as well, but 70-80% you see that nurses are clinical research coordinators because they are experienced in multiple things that they're experienced in conducting or performing ECGs and taking blood pressure, administer the medications. So in Western countries, you see that nurses are uh, very common in this area, that you will see that nurses are working as a clinical research coordinator. And when we talk about the education, that you need a basic degree in health sciences. You can be a medical doctor, pharmacist, nurse, and physiotherapist, or public health expert or professional. You can apply for the role of clinical research associate, but as I earlier said, direct entry isn't easy. You have to start as an in-house CRA or research assistant, and after getting at least 6 months of monitoring experience, you can start working as a full CRA. You can perform monitoring visits physically. You can visit the site. You can also conduct monitoring virtually or remotely utilizing the digital tools. So next slide. Okay, so now we'll share the take-home message that clinical research associate plays a key role in making sure that clinical trials are successful. So you have to make sure that the trials where you are involved, they are successful, and they start by selecting the right locations for the trial. You have to ensure as a CRA that the site has the right resources, experienced staff, and is ready to follow all the necessary guidelines. That's a part of feasibility step. So at the feasibility step, you have to ensure that trial site is equipped with all the necessary things that we need for the trial. Once the trial is set to begin, you conduct a site initiation visit, as I shared in my last slide. And as a CRA, you monitor the data closely, and you have to make sure that data is accurate and that the trial is being conducted as planned and as per good clinical practice guidelines. So because as per good clinical practice guideline, that you have to maintain the rights, safety, and well-being of the study subject. And throughout the trial, CRAs act as a problem solvers. And when issues arises, CRAs quickly find solutions to keep the trial on track, and they communicate regularly with the trial team, site staff, and sponsors to ensure everyone is on the same page. And CRAs work helps make the trial run smoothly with everyone working together to achieve the best possible outcomes. It's not a single stakeholder work. Clinical trial is a teamwork. Principal investigator can't conduct a trial solely. He has to support the trial team. And yes, so at the end, that I would say that CRA's attention to detail and proactive approach are essential to maintain the efficiency and success of the trial from start to finish. Next slide. Thank you. If anyone has any questions, so I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Sheraz, for this very wonderful and exciting presentation. I also believe that this presentation has come at the right time, especially our audience that are still that are mostly just fresh graduates or early career professionals trying to find a career pathway that they can take. So I think to make it more coordinated, since we have come to the end of the three presentations, I would like to thank all the presenters first and foremost for taking their time to take us through these very relevant topics, and especially the career is very important for almost all of just to make it more coordinated, if anyone has question, you can use you can raise your hand up. I think there is an icon somewhere on the Zoom, so that we can acknowledge and then direct your question to the specific speaker. So just before we see the hands being raised, we have some couple of questions that have been posted on the chat box. Okay, so I will start. I think this question is for Megan. I'm not sure if Megan is still with us.
I'm still here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for waiting. Yeah. So there is a question for you, Doctor. It's from one Aminu Muhammad Bello. The question reads, as a pharmacist with a B.Pharm background, I am particularly interested in the intersection of health economics and public health. Could you please share insights on how pharmacists can leverage their experience of pharmacoeconomics to influence policy decisions and resource allocation in public health systems, especially in low middle income countries? What additional skills or qualifications would you recommend for someone to excel in this field? So this is the question from one of the audience.
Wow, that's a topic in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
I would suggest, Manu, that you think about perhaps doing. Um, I think getting involved in clinical trials of health evaluations of clinical trials of medications is one area that you might be able to specifically utilize some of that pharmaceutical knowledge that you have. I would suggest that you do or look for an introduction to health economics or an introduction to economics in healthcare to understand some of those economic resource allocation questions and to also understand the types of economic evaluations available and what is the most useful. I think I think that's a really growing, that's it, that there's potential in that area. I think as governments look for and pharmaceutical and into insurance businesses also look to understand the value choices of the interventions that they're looking at. So I think the ability to apply that pharmacological expertise in a research setting and use the health economic evaluation, apply that as well, I think is a really there's huge possibilities in that type of field.
All right. I think this is very clear and straightforward. I hope Dr. Aminu Muhammad has gotten the answer for his. There is also a question, I think. In these ones, I will join all. There are three related questions. The first person is Dr. Ibrahim Jato, who asked, does UN has a specific CV format? Can someone start as a volunteer? If yes, how can someone become one? Do they pay in local currency or in USD? Then another related question is from Burji. Some job adverts in the United Nations ask about salary expectations of applicants. How will you know the salary range for the position you are applying? I think this is related to the denomination, as in which currency the organization pays. Then the last question is from Nuhu Momo. I have applied for several positions in the WHO, but was not chosen, unfortunately. I would like to be mentored and guided by Dr. Idris. I think this one needs some further mentorship related to applying and finally securing the positions. So if Dr. Yusuf Idris is with us, I would like to invite you to please help with addressing this.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mustafa. Let me start with the questions asked by Dr. Ibrahim. So, does UN has a specific CV format? Yes, of course, though I'm more familiar with WHO, and I think the same thing can apply to other sister organizations in the UN system. Of course, they have their expectations. When you go to create your profile, so the whole of the profile has several sections and questions that you need to provide responses for. So that eventually constitutes what is a CV to them. So you are expected to print that. So yes, of course, they have a format and they have already prepared questions that they want you to respond to. And on that basis, you will generate a CV. So that's basically the answer to that question. And I think the same thing, just as I've said, I am more familiar with WHO, but I think the same thing applies to other sister organizations. Can someone start as a volunteer? If yes, how can someone become one? Yes, of course, as I have said, I haven't seen in WHO, however, for the UN system, yeah, there is a portal for UN volunteers. So you can visit the UN career portal and then the volunteer, the sub portal that is for volunteer. And then you'll be able to now apply for any position that may fit your expertise. Then do they pay in local currency or USD? I think it depends on whether you are nationally recruited or you're international recruited. Since they have, just like with other positions, they have different categories, be it national or international. But for many of the nationals, as I know, they are being paid in the local currency, as in the local currency. But for international, are paid in usually USD as the normative currency for the UN system. Then the question on that job advert usually ask about salary expectations of applicant. How will you know the salary range for the position? I think many of the positions I've come across actually have the salary package indicated. However, where such is not a question like this is posed to an individual, it would depend on the position, whether nationally or internationally recruited, because the UN system has what they call the post adjustment. So depending on where you are, apart from the basic salary, there is also the post adjustment that now account for differences in cost of living in the different areas or jurisdiction or countries that you may take up job with or that you will be working in. So as a clue, I think for you to be able to come up with a kind of an estimate is good. You check other similar positions that could have their salaries indicated, but like UN in the UN and also in WHO, they have a kind of a pay structure for the different categories of staff. So I think those can provide clue to you as to what estimates you may indicate if such a question arises. And for Momo, that now said that several positions in WHO, but okay, he has applied for several positions in WHO, was not choosing and would like to be mentored. If it is about mentorship, of course, I will be available to provide some guidance, but it's not like a guarantee. You you may have to keep trying. And just as I have provided some tips, yeah, there are certain things that may determine your eligibility and also suitability that can clinch the position for you. So it's important that you work on those. But of course, if you need further information, you can try to reach out. I will perhaps provide additional information or additional document that may help you in your application process. I think those were the questions raised, and I hope I've provided some clarifications. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Yusuf. Just another question, since you are still on, from one Muhammad, the pharmacist Muhammad Abdul Rafiq. He said, my question, okay, is it true that you have to become connected or know someone that knows somebody to get the UN or WHO?
Well, I really cannot.
Or maybe let me reframe this. Do you need any
Okay.
recommendation from an insider? Let me rephrase it. Maybe do you need any recommendation letter or reference letter from someone that already works there to like become a more preferred candidate?
Of course, with referees, they pay attention to the referees, as in that you may be indicating, because of perhaps accessibility and how willing they are to provide some feedback. But I think generally, that's the reason I said you need to take a kind of a step of how you intend to get into the organization, like perhaps starting as a consultant or with the volunteer program, getting to know certain of the system procedures of how the system works, and then developing some networks, and then that may help you. Yes, that may help. But I think they have an objective selection process. That's what I can vouch for. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Idris, for that insightful answers. So this questions goes to Dr. Sheraz. I'm not sure, Dr. Sheraz, if you are still with us.
Yeah.
I would like to, okay, thank you. I would like to read out some questions for you. There is one question from Dr. Jato asking about, are there any special courses or specializations for someone to do to become a qualified CRA? So another related question from Abdurrahman, please, what are the basic knowledge, skills, competencies required to become CRA? Are there certifications for CRA? Then the last but not the least, I think also related, are there any specific courses to take to become a certified CRA? So these are the three questions for the Sheraz.
So in these three questions, one question is common, which is about the specific courses to become a clinical research
Dr.
associate.
Sheraz, are you still with us?
He's talking.
He's talking already.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes,
Go
yes,
ahead.
Dr. Sheraz.
Okay, so you shared three questions, and the most common question is about the specific course. So there are some organizations. First one is ACRP, Association of Clinical Research Professionals. If anyone is willing or interested to do any course, so you can visit the website, which is the acrpnet.org, which is the Association of Clinical Research Professionals. They provide the clinical research professional certification. You can complete that course. Second organization is SOCRA, which is the US-based society. I got the opportunity to deliver some presentations in US, and SOCRA invited me. That's the Society of Clinical Research Associate. If you just Google that, SOCRA. So these are the most common organizations that are actually offering some specific courses for the clinical research professionals. So, but let me clear one thing. Unfortunately, these organizations are offering a very expensive certification, and I don't think it's possible for every candidate. I think the minimum charges like starts from $500 to $600. So I would first say that it's not mandatory to have these certifications. And if you get any opportunity as a research assistant or as an in-house CRA or as a clinical research coordinator, so you can read the ICH GCP document. So if you can't afford the expensive certifications, I will recommend that you just find the ICH GCP document, thoroughly read the entire document, prepare yourself for the interview, and try to get the opportunity in the clinical trial because it's not mandatory that you should have these certifications. Uh, so when I started my career, I never had these certifications, but when you join any organization, so they usually sponsor you, then it becomes much easier for you to complete these certifications while working as a trainee and while doing internship or as a research assistant. But if you can't afford these certifications, then I will recommend everyone to read the ICH GCP document. It has everything. If you thoroughly read the ICH GCP document, I'm sure 100% that it will equip you for these roles and you will be successful in interviews for trainee positions or as a in-house CR or clinical research coordinators. And the second question someone asked about specific knowledge, skills. So for the knowledge, as I told you, that you should have basic clinical trial knowledge. You should know about the phases of trials. If they ask you what is a phase one trial, you should know phase two, three, and four. You should know about the different uh, types of trials like treatment trials, prevention trials, and diagnostic trials. You should know the difference. So, and then you should also know why we need clinical trial. These are the questions that can be asked during the interview. And most common question that I was actually asked in the interview that about it was related to troubleshooting, that if you are managing multiple clinical trials, then how you will manage that. So there should be a specific clinical trial tracker, and you can't manage all the trials at one time. You have to prioritize your task. So it all depends. If you identify any adverse event or serious adverse event, so definitely you have to prioritize that thing, that clinical trial should be the priority. Because as per ICH GCP, patients' rights, safety, and well-being is the foremost factor, and you have to take care of that. So you should have basic knowledge about the clinical trials, the types, phases of the trials. As I said, you should read the ICH GCP document. And skills wise, you can work on your skill if you uh, can get the certifications. You can get those certifications from SOCRA or ACRP. Otherwise, I don't think that these courses are mandatory, but it helps you in landing opportunity.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Sheraz. I think that was very clear. Just a question related to that. I just want to get clarification regarding the CRA position. Are there any opportunities for progression, or it is like a fixed position? You are a CRA, you are a CRA, like you cannot
It's
move
yeah,
to
it's
something senior CRA or
it's very
higher position.
Yeah, it's a good
Mm,
question. So
mm,
definitely, as I said, you start with as a in-house CRA, then you progress towards clinical research associate, then clinical associate one, then you become senior, then clinical research associate two, then associate three, which is the senior clinical research associate position, and then you promote to clinical project managers, clinical research managers. So there is a hierarchy, so you can progress. So this is not only a fixed position. You can call it like entry
mm,
level position. You start working as a CRA, then you move towards the senior CRA, then you become the clinical research manager or clinical project manager, and then you start managing the clinical trials. Initially, you can't manage the trials, you can only monitor the trials. That's why we call them monitors or clinical research associates. When you start managing the trials, you become the clinical research managers. And between those positions, there is another role, which is senior CRA, where definitely you get more salary, but you can't become senior CRA if you don't have at least 3 years of experience. So if you are new, you join as an in-house. After 6 months of monitoring experience, you work as a CRA. After 1 to 2 years of experience, you work as a CRA2, and then you move towards CRA3, which is the most senior positions. And all these senior CRAs, they have at least 3 to 5 years of experience. And after 5 years of experience, you become the clinical research managers or clinical trial managers.
All right, I think this is very clear. And apart from monitoring, do you expect the CRA to also be responsible in designing the trial itself, like the proposal, the study design, the protocol, like,
Yes,
or
okay.
just to monitor the conduct? Yeah.
Okay, so as I started my career at local pharmaceutical company, so let's suppose if you have a local pharmaceutical company and they have medications, so you get opportunity because I personally design case report forms, clinical trial protocols because I was a part of local pharmaceutical company. But when you join a multi-center pharmaceutical company, you get your all the documents from the head office. Let's suppose if it's a Roche pharmaceutical, their head office is in Switzerland. So you will get everything prepared. So you don't get any opportunity to work uh, in preparing any trial related document. So if you really want to design any document, then I will recommend that you should join local pharmaceutical companies where you uh, are a part of the investigator initiated trials, and then you can also work how to design case report form and clinical trial protocols. But in the top pharmaceutical company, it's very rare that you will get the opportunity unless you are based at the head office.
All right, so I think this is very clear. Thank you, Sheraz. Maybe stop when we are revising the documents you share, if you can first help in like putting on some links that can direct us to opportunities to apply for this role, we really appreciate. So I think we have almost come to the end of the program, but then I would just like to check again if we have Professor Mora, which agenda we have skipped earlier on, to say a few words since we are already out of time. So I don't know, Prof. Mora, I'm not sure, maybe he connected with a different name. I cannot see uh, any familiar name. So maybe we can start presenting the certificates. In case he joins us, we can still give him some time because he's very important to us as a platform. So we take the next agenda, which is closing remarks and presentations of the certificates. And this is going to be handled by one of our erudite scholar, Dr. Abubakar Ibrahim Dr. Abubakar Sha'aban. Yeah, so Dr. Abubakar Sha'aban, if you are ready, you can please proceed to offer this the closing remark.
Right, just a minute, please. Okay. Can you see my slide there?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. I think before giving the closing remarks, I would like to use this opportunity to thank our distinguished guest speakers starting from Megan Smith. So on behalf of Pharmacy Scholars Initiative, I would like to use this opportunity to thank you, Megan Smith, in recognition for your exceptional presentation as a guest speaker at this anniversary of ours, presenting the career opportunities in public health. Thank you very much, Megan Smith.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, we're grateful. And so going next, also, would like to also thank pharmacist Idris Yusuf for his exceptional presentation as our guest speaker today on this 7th anniversary and titled Presentation Career Opportunities for Pharmacists in the UN System Organizations. Thank you, Idris Yusuf.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks.
Yeah, we are really grateful. And finally, I would like to also thank Sheraz Ali in recognition for his exceptional presentation as a guest speaker at this 7th anniversary webinar, which the title, An Overview of Clinical Research Associate. Thank you very much, Sheraz Ali, for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And so, sorry. So, yeah, Ibrahim, I can see your hand.
No, when you
You
finish.
wanted...
Now, when you
Oh,
finish.
okay. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So, another thing is I would like to use this opportunity to thank you, everyone. As we are about to close this insightful webinar, my heartfelt appreciation to everyone who made this event possible, especially as we celebrate our 7th anniversary as Pharmacy Scholars Initiative. To our distinguished speakers, Megan Smith, Idris Yusuf, and Sheraz, thank you for enlightening us on navigating diverse career opportunity in today's challenging economy. Your unique perspectives on public health, UN systems roles, and clinical research have undoubtedly broadened our understanding of the possibilities within and beyond the pharmacy profession. Today, we've been reminded that challenges often reveal hidden opportunities, whether it is exploring unconventional pathways like Megan mentioned initially, and pursuing excellence in global organizations, as mentioned by Idris, or embracing hands-on clinical roles as explored by Sheraz. So the key is to remain adaptable, innovative, and committed to lifelong learning. As we leave here today, I encourage everyone to apply the knowledge gained, connect with others in your field, and continue striving to make an impact in your chosen path and domains. Together, we can navigate this dynamic economy and contribute meaningfully to our communities. Once again, congratulations to Sai on this remarkable milestone, and thank you all for your time and attention. And I believe it has been a very long one, and so thank you very much. Don't forget, if you haven't filled in the forms, they are what we'll use to contact you to share the slides and certificates. So make sure you fill those forms and have a wonderful day ahead. I can see Ibrahim has his hand.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, I would like, on behalf of Pharmacy Scholars Initiative, to specifically thank our speakers, especially Megan Smith, because now it is 11:15 p.m. in Hobart, and also Sheraz Ali, which is also in Hobart and is still late night. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your efforts. And Yusuf, though you say I shouldn't call you Prof, but but that is your name, as we always call you. Thank you so much for this insightful thing. And also, I would like to extend our condolence to Dr. Khalid Garba, who was supposed to be one of the presenters. I think since 2023, we we booked him to be one of our speakers, and through 20 2024, it has been him as part of the speakers. But on the last week of the webinar, he lost his elder brother, and that's made us to postpone the webinar anniversary to 2025. Initially, it was scheduled to be in December, and I saw Khalid as I still participate as a participant. I saw him from the beginning to the end. Dr. Khalid, please, on behalf of PSI and all participants here, we're extending our condolences to you and your family. May Allah, may Him restore us in peace. Amen. And thank you so much, everyone, for your attendance, and see you in the next year, inshallah. Yes, Dr. Khalid, I saw you. Thank you. So, inshallah, we are also booking you for next anniversary. Please book us in your calendar. Thank you so much. Back to you, Mustafa.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Jato. I think with this, we have come to the end of the celebration. So possibly the item 7 will be somewhere in Tasmania. I don't know where.
Okay, so in
We
addition,
can come over.
our speakers, we are sending your certificates to your corresponding emails address, and possibly with the webinar recording as well to your emails. Thank you so much, and good night from here.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so thank you so much. If you are not part of our platform, you can email us. We can still connect you to the general platform where we share resources and then invitations for our regular programs. So thank you so much all, and wish you all the best in our career endeavors.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.